Some men turn on their own commander, General Dion.
What?
Kill him.
Oh my goodness gracious me! The French Revolution Part 1, Battle of Valmy. I saw this guy in my suggestions a while ago, but I completely forgot to react to him until now
July 4th,
that I got this suggestion.
1789. The Bastille, a symbol of French royal tyranny, has been stormed by the people. For too long they have suffered rampant taxation, forced labor, and now famine, all while the king and aristocracy live in extravagant luxury. No more. In the so-called tennis court oath, representatives of the people swear to curtail the power of the king and establish a constitution. A fervor for the rights of the man and the citizen is sweeping away the old regime. A new age is dawning on Europe, an age of upheaval and war, an age of revolution.
I like how this is very epic history, inspiring. I can tell.
In the early euphoric days of
Very
revolution,
nice.
hopes for the future are high. In the aftermath of the tennis court oath, France is governed by the National Assembly, a provisional government made up largely of Enlightenment thinkers of the middle class.
Where do people get these accurate maps of Europe, or almost accurate maps of Europe, from these time periods? How do they get that? And how do they like outline that properly? I always wondered that for these
Assembly serves to
videos.
draft a permanent constitution, a formidable challenge, while it also directs foreign and domestic policy, and tries to contain a massive economic crisis. At first, most seek a constitutional monarchy, but King Louis XVI and his supporters are disgusted by the idea. They wish to see the republic dismantled and the king's absolute power restored.
Bro, honestly, it really blows my mind how King Louis like more or less sealed his fate, because like a lot of people didn't really want to see him go. I mean, bro, how greedy do you have to be? I mean, just give the people just a bit more rights. Oh my gosh. It's insane what greed does to a person, dude. Like, even when they voted to to put him at the guillotine, didn't it barely went through by like one vote? So like even like towards the very end, I mean, many people were still like, they didn't want to like see him like, you know, be guillotined, you know, like, I mean, he caused that upon himself.
In June 1791, Louis even tries to flee the country to seek aid from France's traditional enemies. Instead, he is caught and returned to Paris. This outright betrayal by the king fuels a growing divide between those who still seek a constitutional monarchy and those who wish to end the monarchy for good. At last, in October 1791, France's new government, the Legislative Assembly, is proclaimed. But it is marred by inefficiency and internal strife. Radical Jacobins and a conservative Feuillants can seldom agree. Just months after its creation, the Constitution is falling apart. Many in the Legislative Assembly see only one way to unite the government and save the regime: war.
War solves everything, but usually creates more problems. Aha, Robespierre.
In 1792, the great concern of Europe is not France in the revolution, but Poland.
I was just looking at Poland. I was literally looking at Poland, thinking in my head, Poland still exists. I wonder how Europe is feeling about that.
Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth has long been in decline. In 1772, the great Eastern European powers, Austria, Prussia, and Russia, agreed to partition the Commonwealth's border provinces. But this treaty masked a deep distrust between the three nations. Austria and Prussia had been at war for much of the last 50 years, and both feared the vast, expansionist Russian Empire to their east. So, when revolution erupts in France, they take only a passing interest. The enlightened King Leopold II of Austria is even partly sympathetic to the revolution. He refuses to back early calls for intervention. It certainly helps that his armies are tied down by an ongoing war with the Ottoman Empire.
I'm actually glad I'm getting this context. Really learning a lot of stuff here. Excellent. I always wondered why Europe, aside from Britain, didn't really seem to respond like extremely quickly as much as they should.
Nevertheless, King Louis's imprisonment cannot merely be ignored by the monarchs of Europe. On the 27th of August, 1791, Austria and Prussia signed the Declaration of Pillnitz, hoping to deter France with the threat of invasion. But the French welcome a conflict, which they believe will unify the nation. On the 20th of April, 1792, they declare war against the Habsburg monarchy. They first hope to capture the Austrian Netherlands, modern Belgium, a rich province and a seemingly easy target. But the Revolutionary Army is woefully unprepared. The Legislative Assembly has failed to provide proper equipment and supplies. Many soldiers are fresh volunteers, not at all ready for the hardships of war. The greatest problem facing the army is its lack of leadership. The experienced General Lafayette, hero of the American War of Independence, is in overall command. But on
I didn't know Lafayette returned to France after the American Revolution. So, speaking of American Revolution and France, I had a comment when I reacted to the American Civil War where it pointed out how not directly or forcefully, but I said, didn't Russia technically save America in the Civil War? And naturally, like, someone disagreed. I knew I was going to get people who disagree with that because no one really talks about the Russian Empire in the American Civil War. But what I argued was very simple. Russia supporting America created a situation where Britain and France couldn't just go in on their own because, well, the balance, America wasn't just alone, right? And they were like, oh, but Britain and France had a big navy, yada yada. They have the most powerful navies in the world, yada yada. And I was basically trying to say, Britain and France wanted to support the Confederacy to get a hoodwink at the Union and weaken the Union. Okay, many times throughout history where many countries / kingdoms would do that. And he was like, oh, but Britain wanted trade and yada yada yada. Britain valued its trade with the US. So, dude, France literally put itself in debt just so it could get a hoodwink at the British in the American Revolution, despite the fact that they weren't really getting anything out of it. Many times throughout history where countries would do that just to get a hoodwink at another country. Okay. But yeah, I just want to say that quick quick line.
Almost half of all officers, mostly aristocrats, have fled to escape Republican persecution. Most who remain are of dubious loyalty or unfit to command. As Lafayette begins crossing the frontier, this rotten core is promptly exposed. Units flee at the first sign of the enemy.
Wow.
Within days, they are falling back.
Wow. Wow. Cowards, bruh. Wow. No, that is actually shocking to me. Wow.
The panic is so extreme that some men turn on their own commander, General Dion.
What?
Kill him.
Oh my goodness gracious me. How bad must your morale be for you to do that?
And now, a crisis is forming. Prussia has joined Austria in an alliance. Together, they have gathered an army to crush the revolution and restore the powers of the king. It is led by the Duke of Brunswick, at the time widely regarded as Europe's best general. On the 25th of July, Brunswick declares that if any harm should come to the French royal family, they would bring down an ever-memorable vengeance upon the people of France. 6 days later, his army crosses the Rhine into France.
I mean, well, you threaten that if anything happens to the king, you're gonna have revenge, but you still invaded France anyways. Yeah, you're kind of giving the people no choice, so...
It appears the revolution is on the brink of collapse. The army in disarray, the government in turmoil, and enemy troops closing in on Paris.
A revolutionary war must be waged to free subjects and slaves from unjust tyranny, not for traditional reason of defending dynasties and expanding frontiers. Huh. Free subjects and slaves. Interesting. If I'm not wrong, the French Revolution did end slavery, right? But then it was reinstated by Napoleon, right? If I remember that accurately, right?
After the disastrous invasion of Belgium, it was obvious that France's citizen soldiers are not yet up to the task. Though eager and loyal, they have neither the training nor discipline of the old royal battalions. So, the French army undergoes rapid reforms. Formation and doctrine are simplified to match the skill of the new recruits. Campaigning gear and heavy supply wagons are ditched, increasing speed and flexibility. Most critically, Royal Army veterans, previously looked upon with suspicion, are allowed back into the field. This revitalized force will prove far more effective, though it's still...
Yeah, I was gonna say, sure they might be royals, but some of them can be quite good. You know, and just because you're a royalist doesn't really necessarily mean that you might be loyal to the king.
Experienced officers. For the time being, France has just 54,000 troops under the command of Lafayette and Luckner between Brunswick and Paris. The combined Austro-Prussian army totals 84,000 men, a relatively small force, but deemed sufficient to brush aside the inexperienced enemy.
Yeah, they're more quality.
Brunswick, ever cautious, advances slowly into France. It's not until the 23rd of August that he is able to capture the border fortress of Longwy. 10 days later, he captures Verdun.
Okay.
Meanwhile, France is in chaos. Invasion scare has swept the country. The Tuileries Palace has been stormed. The king and queen placed under arrest. They will soon face execution. Things are little better at the front. Both Lafayette and Luckner have been removed from command. Lafayette, a nobleman by birth, even has to flee the country after a warrant is issued for his arrest.
Wow, what? Wow. Even okay.
Replaced by Generals Kellerman and Dumouriez, both enthusiastic supporters of the revolution, but as of yet untested in high command. Dumouriez, energetic and bold, is tasked with holding the Allied advance at the Argonne Forest. But, believing the Allies will head south, he neglects to properly guard the passes, and Brunswick is able to outflank Dumouriez to the north.
Come on, dude. Come on, dude. You need to be prepared for anything.
Chazot's division is then routed by just 1,500 Prussian hussars. The panic is so great, it nearly leads to the collapse of the entire French army. Dumouriez only just manages to hold it together. The road to Paris is now open for Brunswick, but Kellerman's troops have finally arrived to support Dumouriez.
Yeah, you gotta deal with those troops
Kellerman's
first, bro.
Army of the Center contains some of the best regiments in the French army, and gives Dumouriez the confidence to challenge the enemy in the field. Rather than moving to block the road to Paris, Dumouriez makes the bold decision to march into the rear of the Allied army, cutting off their supplies and communication.
Yeah, that's smart. That's what I was thinking. I was like, well, if he goes to Paris, you can literally just cut him off and just flank him from the back.
Unwilling to risk continuing the advance, Brunswick doubles back.
He's gonna be forced to face battle with them. So like, you can't, again, like when the enemy clearly has a force that's not defeated, you can't do anything. You can't achieve your goals until they're defeated.
It's
so
just as well for the old Prussian general. A chance to destroy the Republican army, which has never before managed to stand its ground.
The ultimate bundle.
In the early hours of September 20th, 1792, a thick fog blankets the rolling French countryside around Valmy. Brunswick's advanced guard, marching east, runs into General Valence, holding the village of La Lune.
Okay.
Valence's men are veterans of the old Royal Army. They put up a stiff resistance and buy time for the rest of the French army to deploy on a ridge just east of Valmy. Brunswick had not expected such stiff resistance. He decides to wait until more troops have arrived before launching his assault. Both sides now bring up their artillery. 40 French guns against 56 Prussian. While the Prussians have greater numbers, the French guns are better positioned on the hills. Dumouriez and Kellerman both expose themselves to the deafening fire, riding up and down the lines, encouraging their men to hold firm.
That's what you gotta do.
As the artillery duel drags on, it becomes clear that the French will not be so easily broken. At 1 p.m., Brunswick orders a general advance.
Bad idea.
The Prussians come under a hail of murderous fire.
There's no way you're the best general in Europe and you're doing that.
Step forward, more and more men are smashed in by French round shot.
Bro, this is such a what?
After only a few hundred paces, Brunswick decides that further advance would be too costly, and he halts the attack.
Bro,
For
nah.
the first time since the outbreak of the war, French morale is on the rise as the Prussians fall back. But it is not over yet. A Prussian cannonball strikes a group of ammunition wagons.
Ooh.
Ranks of men are eviscerated. The artillery duel halts briefly, as men on both sides gaze in awe at the explosion.
Eviscerated is crazy, bro.
A Prussian officer urges Brunswick to seize the moment. But Brunswick is soon dissuaded. a certain Louis Philippe, one day to be crowned the citizen king of France, brings forward 2 batteries of horse artillery and resumes the bombardment. Kellerman too is on the spot, standing with his men. He holds out his hat and shouts, "Long live the nation."
Awesome.
In all previous engagements, the French had broken at the first sign of danger. At Valmy, they hold firm. From the royal veterans to the raw conscripts, the tired gunners to the brave generals. At 5 p.m., with rain now falling, flooding the fields, both sides ceased the bombardment.
I gotta respect the French for this. I gotta respect the French for
Valmy
this. I
was
can't
neither a
even.
large nor costly battle. It's debatable whether it should even be called a battle at all, but it was a decisive turning point in the revolution. For the first time, the new Republican Army, heavily augmented by the old Royal Army, had held its ground. It also proved to be a decisive check to the invasion force. As the French army pulls back to better defensive ground, the Prussians are left to fend for themselves in a hostile country. Heavy rain continues to thrash the armies throughout September, while desertions and disease reduce Brunswick's main force down to just 17,000 effectives.
Whoa!
The general has had enough and orders a retreat. On the 23rd of October, the last Allied troops crossed the River Rhine back into Germany. It will take nearly 22 years and cost over 3 million lives before another army gets as close to Paris as Brunswick did in the autumn of 1792.
Really?
For the revolution has only just begun.
Brilliant suggestion. Brilliant suggestion. So this guy is a high schooler. That is wild to me. You know, it's funny because I can make these type of videos. It's just that I don't know where people get their sources of exact movements in battles. I always try to figure out, where do people get the sources for this? Like, they were here at this specific time or around this specific era. Like, how do people do that? That is like the only thing holding me back from making these type of videos. Because if you watch my videos where I was testing my skills on my Ukraine videos, you could tell that I can, that you've seen that I can like make some pretty good edits like this. I can, believe me, I can. I just don't know like where people just get the sources for the movements and location and whatnot. Anyways, you've made it all the way to the end. Make sure you like and subscribe. Okay. Wonderful video. Thank you for watching. If you got any suggestions, comment down below, and goodbye.